Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Angie's Jungle House.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to Angie's Jungle House. Today we are talking about one of my favorite topics, which is ivy. General basic requirements, general maintenance and prevention, as well as propagation. We're going to start off with basic requirements. Now, what they need are water, sunlight, and fertilizer. So as far as watering goes, overwatering is the quickest way to kill your ivy. Underwatering takes some time to accomplish. So as far as underwatering goes, you got to be really mean to your plant and neglectful to underwater an ivy. I'm going to take this one out for a quick example. Now, I did just water these today, so they are wet enough. But how I test to see if my ivy needs water is I will take my finger and press it on top of the soil. And if it is moist, I do not water. If it is dry to the touch, then I will add water. I typically go less is more with ivy. I would rather a little bit underwater than overwater. I do test my plants to see if they need water every single day, each and every plant. So I water less in quantity, more frequently, if that makes any sense. With watering, I will talk about fertilizing. Now, I give them a liquid fertilizer, Miracle-Gro to be exact, like everybody else. At half strength every 2 weeks when they're growing, and if they seem relatively dormant, I will give them Miracle-Gro half strength once a month. As far as sunlight goes, they do like very bright indirect sunlight. So if they're in a window that would receive a lot of direct sunlight, use maybe like a sheer curtain, something like that. Most of mine are in filtered light in east and south facing windows, which they thrive. As far as if you're experiencing leaf drop, they're either being underwatered or they're not receiving enough light. So those are two things that you might want to watch out for. Pay attention. If you're getting like west facing sun, your leaves may start to burn. Some ivy plants are a lot hardier than others and can tolerate a lot more sunlight. But just remember that if it's in a window, absolutely bright direct sunlight will probably not have the best effect on your ivy. As far as preventative maintenance goes, actually, let me grab this. What I will do, probably about once a month or so, is I will take a spritzer bottle like this, filled all the way up with kind of warm water, not hot but warm, and put maybe a half a teaspoon of dish soap in there and give her a good shake. Grab this again for another example. And obviously I'm not going to do this right now. I'm on hardwood floors. So what I will do is I will spray the underneath of all the leaves, and I'll get in there. I'll spray the inside, and then I will go ahead spray the top while I'm holding the container like this because I don't want too much dish soap getting in the soil. Now, this method is to pretty much prevent spider mites. I do that before I bring any new ivy into my house, and they do go into a quarantine area before I let them be with the rest of the plants, just to make sure they're not carrying any pests. So that's all I do for preventative maintenance, is pretty much prevent spider mites, because these are a breeding ground for spider mites, and I've had problems in the past, and I've never found it too difficult. So when I do have a spider mite infestation, I will actually do a video diary on it and let you know how I take care of that and the progresses that I'm making. On On to general maintenance now. General maintenance is really, really easy. I repot maybe once every year or two on my older plants. Like my giant ivy, my big Eva ivy that my mother gave me, which is now a 13-year-old plant. It is half of a 10-year-old plant, and I've had it for 3 years. We cut that in half, and it had probably been in the same container for about 5 years. Now, it's okay. They do kind of enjoy being a little root bound, but they do need an adequate amount of fertilizer if there's no soil or any fertilizer being added to their water. So they are all right being slightly on the more root bound side, but what I do when I repot, I use general potting soil for ivy, and I'll put compost in there as well. And they're pretty okay with about any kind of soil that you give them, as long as it doesn't retain too much water. So I wouldn't suggest anything with like a really high peat moss content. But anyhow, what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a couple pictures of what this ivy plant looked like when I got it, once it was split, and then what it looked like in my house if I can find any. And if I didn't find any, oops, I'm sorry. But if I...
All right, in the first picture here, we see the mother plant in its original state. I just can't believe how big this ivy plant really was. And in the second picture, we see the ivy plant after she had been split in half. The one on the left-hand side became my ivy that I love so much. And in the third picture, we see after 3 years of abuse, how pathetic this plant was really starting to look.
I have pictures I'll show you. Now with the ivy plant, it did receive a lot of vine loss due to the fact that we did literally chop the root ball in half. So some of it got too damaged and died off. And then it continued to live in low light situations for 3 years, which greatly decreased the size of the plant. The only thing that ever kept that plant alive was getting ample amount of sunlight in the spring and summer. But over winter, it would slowly start to drop off leaves just due to the sole fact that there just was not enough light to support the plant. So overall, ivy is, what it is it's an invasive species. A lot of places it is illegal to sell. It will grow its aerial roots. I mean, you can take it and put it in a spiral around the pot and use like holding pins, like floral holding pins to push them down, and the aerial roots might take off if it is consistently damp enough. What I like to do is just propagation, which I will show you right now. Welcome to my propagation station. Here I have some cuttings that have been in the water for a couple of weeks. We're starting to get some pretty good root growth, if you can see. Typically I'll wait till the roots get to be about 2 inches or so long. You can let them go longer if you want, but I feel like I get pretty good results at about 2 inches worth of root growth. I don't use rooting hormone or anything like that, just straight cuttings in water. And I have on average about 100% success rate unless the cats are feeling mischievous. But little helpful hint, these Starbucks containers, they work great for propagating like ivy, teddy bear vine, wandering Jew, like Hoya vine, stuff like that. So just a helpful hint. So if you drink them, save them. They work phenomenal. Anyhow, we'll get on to the difference. We've got now this one, Puka. This guy has been rooting in water. See, we got some root growth there, root growth there, root growth there. Puka. Now, these right here, these guys,
These are the bumpy looking things here, typically found on the underneath of a stem. They can grow on the top, but these are aerial roots. These are what the ivy uses to cling to things, but these aerial roots, if you put them in water, will grow. And actually, so will a node. This right here where the leaf meets the stem, that is what we refer to as a node, that little bump right underneath the leaf. Now, if I was going to propagate this personally, say my cutting ended here, what I would do is I always cut above a node to cut it off the plant. Then I will remove 1 and 2 leaves, so I have a nice big stem to put in the dirt when I go to plant it in soil. So I would cut here above this node, and then I would remove that leaf and that leaf, stick it in some water, and 100% success rate, no rooting hormone. That's my princess. But no rooting hormone required, anything like that. Ivy is a weed and it will propagate so easily. If anybody tells you you need rooting hormone, they're probably full of crap. So on to the rest of the video. All right, so everybody, thanks for watching. And please let me know down below what is your favorite variety of ivy. And also if you have any video suggestions for in the future, because I can get working on those. So without any more mindless babbling, I'm going to get going. But as always, thank you and have a wonderful day and enjoy your growing.